Yeah, for us, it was just finding that right fit. It's what many companies say when they're looking for people. When we started, we knew that we were a people-based company. We were providing services to our customers, and if it wasn't for that great personal relationship, we really wouldn't be any different than our competitors, perhaps, and not really good at our job. So it was just finding that fit, that energy, that internal drive, that really looking for those intrinsic motivators that make people or take people to the next level.
And what specifically do you do? What do you put them through to make sure they're that person?
To start with, it was more of a gut feeling. There was just a couple of us to make those calls. But now we've moved to quite a long recruiting process where we meet with people over several interviews. That last kind of check is our dining room style interview where the candidates sit in the dining room and we say, you can sit here for an hour, people will stop by, it might be a few people, might be 20 people to come by and talk to you, but it's just that final test to see if you connect at a personal level with them. And so that works really well for us now. When we were smaller, it didn't work so well, but that's the key now.
Awesome. Cindy, what's the most important thing you've learned about how to hire the right person?
Well, for me, it's in the service industry, like I'm relating to having the restaurant, not so much on our table. In the service industry, it's just so important that obviously you want to hire someone who's competent, but I think also it's just so important to hire people that, just represent what you're doing, represent you the business really well, and just, quite simply, someone who's nice and respectful and has manners and, just really quite simple sometimes. Because I think we've all experienced that in the workplace when that person isn't quite fitting in and maybe has their own agenda or whatever the case is. Morale and all of that can go downhill very quickly. Yeah. And it's just so important.
Did you ever come up with a surefire way to identify that special jewel of a person?
Well, I think it's more, one thing that I learned is that, in our industry it's very transient, and sometimes you feel quite desperate for employees, right? So what I've learned is that, you might be sensing that I'm not sure this person's going to fit in, really experienced, really smart, really qualified, and all of those things. Maybe I'll just overlook that, right? And it ends up just being more work in the end, right? Because, it causes a whole, list of other problems and things that you have to deal with, and it's time-consuming and all of that, right? So
better to be shorthanded than have the wrong person in the role.
Yes, yeah. Even though it's very tempting sometimes, because especially in my situation, it was often me that would have to sort of fill in. So looking back, I sometimes, I think that's one thing I learned is hang in there and wait for the right person. And you really got to have that connection, and you really have to enjoy working with that person. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Shafraaz, what's the most important thing you've learned about the right person?
We have to find values alignment. So Manasc Isaac is a values-based company. We are heavily into sustainable design, and we look for that same value in a person applying. So it goes into looking what they do after their work life. So what do they do for extracurricular? What do they like to do and enjoy? And you could sort of glean hints of that from how they spend their time after hours. So we try to sort of dig into that, and we also try to engage them socially. So if they're a good fit, they fit when we have our Friday social hour on Fridays. So usually I like to invite potential employees to our Friday afternoon sort of social hour and see how they interact. And usually you can tell by the time someone has a beer or two whether or not they're a good fit. So
there you go. Try alcohol as truth serum to get to the bottom of it.
It works.